Hello, this is Dan, the Furniture Repairman. This is the second part of the chair repair video. We're doing the fill and the color touch-up, and we're going to get some fresh varnish on this piece where we repaired it. Now I'm working with a moldable epoxy stick. I get these from Mohawk. They're a two-part putty, and they're very simple to use. There's an inner core and an outer core. I just cut off a triangle that has enough of it, mix it together so it's all the same color, and I'm going to force it in the holes. Now they come in multiple different colors. So I like to start with a color that's much lighter than what I have to go to so I can darken it. It's much easier for us to darken things than it is to get them lighter. And then the other thing I tend to stay away from is I'm very careful about things with red in them because red is very hard to cancel back out. So there's an oak chair, it doesn't have much red in it. Now I'm a little scant there. I'm using my hands to feel that, so I'm adding a little bit more. And then where the screw holes are, I'm just going to kind of take a little bit of a stick right here and kind of poke it in there and get it in there into the corners, into the grooves, so it's nice and tight, and it hardens in about 10 minutes. And what it's going to do is it's going to harden and grab onto all those corners and everything in there, and it's not going to pop out. It's going to become part of the piece. So I'm using the back of it just to kind of flatten it out. And after about 10 minutes, this is what it looks like. It's dried. I need to sand it now. Now the top part I'm going to sand with a 220, and the reason why is I'm sanding right around the varnished area right there, and the 220 isn't going to scratch up the varnish too much. So when I spray my sealer on it, the lines are going to just be absorbed back in and the sanding lines will disappear. So I sand it smooth to look and feel. Now, the other ones, I'm going to start with an 80 grit sandpaper because they're a little bit rougher, and I'm going to use this little trick right here we call strip sanding. And I'm just going to pull the 80 grit through and kind of push it in that hole and get it sanded. Now I'm going to work my way up through the grits. I think I go like 120, 150, and then finish off with 220. And that usually works well enough for us. And then on this spot right here, it's a little bit tighter for that big club of a finger I got. So I'm just going to use a little bit of a end of a stick here and push it in there and just pull it through, and it works very quickly. Now the back part, this is quite a big seam right here, and I could feel it. It's raised. And a lot of times when pieces break and you put them back together, most of the piece will go back perfectly, but there'll be a part that doesn't. This has a lot to do with the bound tension in the wood. And when it breaks, that releases it, and part of it kind of swells up a little and won't go back perfect. I try to make that area that doesn't go back perfect in the back or something like that, so I could hide it a little. But I do have to sand it so it's smooth to the touch, or else what's going to happen as the varnish dries and as I fix it, I'm going to end up with this craggly line back there, and I don't want that. So I'm going to keep sanding on it until it disappears to my fingers feel. And once I have that set, I'm going to just take a little denatured alcohol, wipe it down. And I did remove a little bit of color, but not too much, not too hard to put that color back. Now, before I put any color on, I put a little sealer on the piece. And this lets me see what the piece is going to look like and how much I have to add. Sometimes, a lot of times, it'll change a little in color. So make sure you get your sealer on there first and let it dry, then look. These are Mohawk Blend All powders, and they're what we use for touch-ups. And these are originally made to make stains out of, but they work great for touch-ups. Now, we're going to use light golden oak. It makes sense. It's an oak chair, so we're going to use that. But the other color we're going to use is called Perfect Brown. And the reason why we're going to use Perfect Brown is it doesn't have very much red in it, and the chair doesn't have red in it. So if we introduce red into this chair, it's going to really show up. So we're going to kind of stay on the greener side of the spectrum. And it's very simple to use. This is just denatured alcohol in that little cup up there. And I put it's just a paint can lid, and I put a little bit of denatured on there and put a little bit of powder on there. And I mix it together, make a little bit of a slurry, and then I just kind of start putting it on. Now, I don't paint it in perfect. I kind of like to create lines that go with the grain. I tend to want to move my brush with the lines on the grain. Now, this has lines going a lot of different ways, but I'm kind of just making a guess and saying, okay, this is what I want. And you're never going to get color perfect in one go. What you want to do is kind of get it started and then add to it. And sometimes it'll take 3, 4 different layers of color for me to achieve a look, because a lot of times there are 3 or 4 different colors in the piece. There's the color of the wood that's showing through. There's the color of the base stain that's showing through. And there's the color of the varnish as it aged that's coming through. And that's not one color, and it's not showing through equally every place. So here I am. I probably should use a little bit of a better brush for this, but this is kind of what I did. Now, what I'm going to do is darken this up a little bit. And now this is my perfect brown, and I'm going to just come up top and just kind of dot it. Not too much, add it a little bit here and there. And, you know, when it dries, it lightens. And when it's light like that, you know it's ready to shoot some sealer, or you can go more on it. But if you don't put sealer on at this point, it'll just kind of brush right back off because it's just that powder on there. So trying to get a little bit close in here so you can see this technique, and just the tiniest little bit of color and just kind of pulling some lines. And I'm just building this up very slowly. Now on the interior here, here's my perfect brown, and I got a little smarter and switched to a little better brush there. And the funny thing about some pieces is colors will look great on one part of the piece and they'll be a little bit off on the other part of the piece because maybe it's different a piece of wood they used on that piece of the furniture, or maybe the sun hit it differently and bleached out part of it. So you got to kind of adjust to basically what it is it's giving you. So you try to color things to its surrounding area. Now I'm just going to take a rag with a little denatured on it. I'm going to wipe this off so I get any excess powder out of there. And then this is just sanding sealer. You could look below, you'll see the link to our Mohawk products there. And I'm just spritzing it on, and that's going to lock that color in place. Now, if it's good, we could stop, but I'm not good. I'm pretty close on that area, but on the top, I'm definitely way too light, and that's showing up. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit more darker color to it. Now, black is a scary color. You have to go very light and very small with it, but it is in that piece, so we have to kind of put it in there. And patience is what kind of is rewarding, because if you take your time and you go slow, you actually get done quicker than if you rush and try to get it done all in one shot. So I'm just kind of little tiny dots in a row like this, and you can see how little they are, and that's why I like this fan brush so much, because it gives me that control. It's just kind of little eyelash dots like that. And you can see how already it's making that little different color splotch disappear. Now, it'll take me 4 or 5 coats and colors to get things to blend in correctly. Now, once it dries, after about a minute, I just use my finger and smudge that powder a little. And now I'm going to just kind of spray on my sealer again and lock it in. And after that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch over to a gloss, because sealer is soft. I need to put a lacquer on there that's gloss or satin or flat. Now it's a little bit off. I'm going to let it dry and work it a little bit more, but you can get the idea. This is Dan, the Furniture Repairman. Thanks so much for watching. You all have a good day.